Welcome to the Metals Investment Forum. It's my great pleasure to invite Simon Dyakowski, CEO of Aztec Mineral. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much for having Aztec at the Metals Forum, Chen.
Okay, great. You had a great presentation. Maybe you can tell us a little bit of history and then where you are about your company.
Yeah, perfect. So Aztec has been around for a number of years now. The company was taken public about 2017, and it was actually founded by a rather legendary figure in the mining industry here, the late and great Bradford Cook, also the founder of Endeavour Silver, which he grew from basically an idea to a market capitalization of over $1 billion, a high-grade silver miner in Mexico. So Aztec was really born out of his office, and it was listed as a vehicle to pursue gold opportunities at an earlier stage, something more along the lines of drilling for discovery and then growing and de-risking. So many years on now, we have been very fortunate to have acquired two properties, the Tombstone Silver District in southeastern Arizona, which we own a 75% joint venture interest in. And that's located on private ground. It's a past-producing open-pit heap leach. It's also a past-producing high-grade underground silver mine. So we've been quite busy drilling there over the past few years. And as well as in Mexico, our Cervantes project, that's in eastern Sonora state. And we've drilled a fairly significant discovery there. We still think it's quite early days. We have about 12,000 meters in the ground right now. But that discovery of a couple of years ago did get us a strategic investment from a company called Alamos Gold. So they operate a big gold mine about 40 kilometers away from us. So, you know, we think we've got a nice package of two properties. Both are post-discovery now, but still advancing in the sense that they're growing, and we'll be shifting that growth into a de-risking process over the coming years as well.
Okay, great. So in Mexico, just my understanding, you're looking for oxide heap leach. In the United States, in Arizona, it's more high grade, and then potentially underground or open pit, depending on what.
Yeah, that's right. So both of them have an oxide cap. So in the case of Arizona, it's gold and silver, and then in the case of Mexico, it's primarily gold. And beneath that mineralization is the source. So in the case of Mexico, the target there is porphyry, gold copper style of mineralization. And then in Arizona, the style of mineralization there is known as CRD, or carbonate replacement deposit. And our discovery model there is really based off of a very well-known discovery made back in 2015 by a company then known as Arizona Mining. And Arizona Mining discovered what is now one of the largest zinc discoveries of the last several decades, and it was acquired by an Australian company, South 32 Mining, for about $1.8 billion back in 2018. So that's our discovery model at depth, but we're also pursuing this gold-silver open pit scenario near surface as well.
Okay, great. Looks like both projects could become a mine at one certain stage.
You know, it's certainly looking like that, and you know, I might just say to that, especially in Mexico, when you look at the topography of the discovery we've made there, and you know, investors that are interested in looking into this will see it in our presentations and news releases. We're basically drilling off a 1.1 kilometer long ridge line that's about 300 meters in height and a width of several hundred meters. And what is really important about that is that our mineralization starts at surface. So for potentially examining, bringing this into production, it's got a very, very key element in that it's got the potential for a very low stripping ratio. And given that it appears to be at this point in our study potentially amenable to heap leach processing, those are all the ingredients for a low capex and potentially low opex mine, which is a very, very important differentiator, especially in this climate where it's quite difficult to raise money for any mining project, be it building a new mine or discovering new mineralization.
Right, exactly. But you guys seem to navigate very well, and your stock doing fine until it seems like recently they seems to have one of the shareholder has to sell or something. It's a great buying opportunity for new listeners.
Yeah, and I mean, thanks for pointing that out. And I mean, every company has a history and a share price chart, and I think it's worthwhile to look at our share price chart and maybe just understand a little bit of why we're trading at about 50% of where we were about a year ago. And I believe the reason that we're down a little bit is because we had a large shareholder who was, they weren't a fundamental investor. They were actually we sold them shares in order to buy back a minority interest in the property where we made a discovery. So it was a very good transaction. It brought us 100% ownership of the property. And, very simply, other junior companies have their own funding needs, and sometimes they have to sell. So it's not due to any sort of negative news or anything like that. And it put a little bit of a damper on the share price, really in the second half of 2023. And perhaps exacerbated a little bit by the end of the year tax loss selling. But, now we're speaking at the end of January. Our shares have actually started to rebound a little bit. We bottomed out around 15 cents, and we're right back to about 20. So, I think, obviously speak to a licensed investment advisor, and I can't comment as to specific risk profiles, of course, but I do think it represents, fairly compelling value at these low levels here.
Oh, great, great. Tell us what's your plan for this year, and you already have some drill result from last year, so there would be some news flow coming, and then what's your plan for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, we do expect to have fairly robust news flow starting really about now, first quarter of 2023, and really the most relevant news at this moment is the drill results of our recently completed expansion drill program down at our Cervantes project in Mexico. This is the gold oxide discovery that we're growing, and what we've done there over the past couple of months of last year was we drilled a modest program, approximately 1,600 meters, 13 drill holes, all positioned in a way to have step-out drilling, so to hopefully grow the mineralized zone that we've already drilled off. And we've just started to receive those assays back from the lab. We've reported the first 3 holes already, and we expect to report the balance of the 10, and of course all the information that we gained from those holes over the first quarter of this year. Then we plan to go back into the field, true up some of the other targets there. And we also have, I should note, we have permits in place to continue drilling this. Similarly at Tombstone, where we haven't really drilled since the spring of 2023, we are planning to get back in the field there very shortly. There we had about a 7-hole program last spring. All the holes came back very well mineralized. We actually hit for the first time at Tombstone what it's famous for, which is bonanza grade silver. We hit 1.5 meters of over 3,400 grams. But I should note it was in oxides. It was shallow. It was only about 130 meters down the hole. We haven't even been back there to follow up with the drill yet on that. So that's something that we're starting to plan. And, being a public company and obviously having many shareholders, we're very focused in on communicating all that to the market. So, all that to say is we'll have lots of news releases to telegraph and communicate what our future plans are, and of course, properly disseminate the recent drilling results as well.
Well, excellent. Let's look at a great plan. You have a very eventful year ahead of us. Maybe you tell us a little bit about your background and let the audience know.
Yeah, happy to. So I come from a capital markets background, always had a focus on mining. I've been in the industry for about 17 years, and I partnered up with the late Brad Cook on Aztec in 2020. At the time, the company had really compelling drill results from a first pass of drilling, but needed a little bit more of a call it advertising in the market, a little bit of a new shareholder base. So that was my opportunity to come in, and I've since purchased several $100,000 worth of shares. I really love these projects. I think that we've got a great opportunity to grow them, to de-risk them, and hopefully to sell them at great profit. So I've kind of dedicated a lot of my personal capital into this project over the last 4 years, and I anticipate to continue doing so going forward.
Okay, great. So out of those 2 projects, which one you think can mature first? So, I'm not, we're speculating here.
It's such a good question. It's one that we will answer this year. I mean, we look at them as 2 flagships. We have 6,500 meters drilled over 3 campaigns at Tombstone. We have about 12,000 meters drilled at Cervantes. So Cervantes is a little bit bigger land-wise. Tombstone's a little bit higher grade, but it's got an advantage of being on private land. So there's lots of different ways that I think our shareholders will potentially benefit from this. A little bit more drilling, I think, at both is the first course of action, and then we can look at ways that maybe finding different partners for each of the projects, maybe separating them. But being a large shareholder myself, getting a re-rating, getting full value for our shareholders is really top of mind.
Okay, great. Thank you, Simon. As your shareholder, I sincerely hope your success this year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chen.